Welcome back to Overtime here on WOTM. Mark, let's talk Atlanta Braves. It's a team we followed all year long, and especially here in the second half of the season. We know that this division is really, really tight, so they're not out of it. But the thing is, it looks like they're going to be way out of the wild card spot. It looks like the team who wins the division here is going to go to the playoffs. Too early to forecast all of that just right now. However, they came off a 3-game series against the Milwaukee Brewers, lost 2 of 3 in that series. Kind of where do you see the Braves team right now?
Well, I think the divisions are kind of cyclical. I mean, you have years where the NL West wasn't that good. Now they're the best division in the National League. You have 3 teams that are near the best overall in baseball. But as far as the Braves and the Mets are concerned, and other teams in the National League East, the Mets have had a chance to break this thing wide open for a little while, and they haven't. And I think that Atlanta getting the reserves they have at the trade deadline, where a lot of teams made some really good moves, but Atlanta specifically addressed some needs that they have. We're talking about Jorge Soler, a guy that 48 home runs, 117 RBIs in 2019 with Kansas City, so you know he can produce. Rosario, same type of thing with Cleveland. 32 homers, 109 RBIs in 2019 with Cleveland. Duvall, 69 RBIs, tied for 11th in baseball this year with Albies, and 17 of those RBIs came against Atlanta. So right there, you gain because you don't have to face them. And then Rodriguez, the closer, a guy who has 14 saves for the Pirates and a whip of 0.84. So they really helped themselves in areas that they need to. They need their outfield to be more productive. They took care of that with Soler, Duvall, and Rosario. Even if all 3 of them don't produce, they should get something out of each of them. And then Rodriguez kind of shores up the back end of that bullpen. So that really helps them out. But they need to play better than they've been playing. I mean, they're better than the Mets since the middle of June, if we look at those numbers. The Mets are really struggling since the middle of June. Since they were 10 games over 500, they are now 4 games over 500 since June 17th. And you see where Atlanta's played good over that stretch. They're 22-19 over that stretch, but they're not able to. Atlanta really struggles with winning their close games. This is another reason why the Mets starters, Taijuan Walker and Marcus Stroman, both of them have really struggled since June 20th. They only have 2 combined wins over that span, and DeGrom is a guy that might be able to pick up the slack, but he's out too, and he has not pitched consistently since the middle of June as well. So you've really seen where the Mets starters, which were their strength early on, we're talking about Walker and Stroman, these guys were combined 12-7 up to that point. Walker had an ERA under 2.2. Stroman was one of the best pitchers in the National League. These guys were both all-stars. 2-7 over their last 14 starts. That's why the Mets are really struggling at this point to get consistent starting pitching. And then if you look at the overall records from that point, you'll see why what I was talking about earlier, where the Braves are 3 games over 500 since the middle of June, and they were at that point on June 16th. The Braves were 5 games behind, or 7 games behind the Mets. That was their season low at 5 games under. The Mets, their season high at 10 games over. The Mets since then 20-24, and the Braves are 22-19. But where Atlanta's got to get better is winning close games. Even during that span, they're 16-20 overall in 1-run games. They're 9-12 over that span in games decided by 2 runs or less. So that's still where they got to do some work.
Exactly. And right before the trade deadline, you talked about some of these guys earlier, but all 3 actually, the Braves, the Mets, and the Phillies, all made some moves here. Mm-hmm. And you talked about some of these things earlier, and I think it's really interesting in this scenario because all 3 still have a shot here at being able to get the trade, to get themselves ready for the trade deadline. Got themselves ready, and then we're able to make some moves.
Yeah, well, again, with the Braves, we're talking about guys that have accomplished numbers over time. Soler was a very good player for the Royals in 2019. That's not too long ago. 48 homers, with that type of production, 117 RBIs, pretty good for an outfielder. The Braves' outfield production is one of the worst. Same thing with Rosario, 32 home runs, 109 RBIs in 2019 for Cleveland. So those are very good numbers for outfielders. And then with the closer, the Braves have really struggled in the bullpen, and Rodriguez gives them 14 saves for the Pirates, one of the better closers in the National League this year. He's much better than Will Smith, who's really struggled in that role. And then we'll see the Mets with Baez and Williams. Williams can help them out, but he's not a frontline guy. He's a guy that can fill the back end of their rotation. And the Phillies, Kyle Gibson is a very good starter as far as consistency. Ian Kennedy was a guy that was very good early on in his career, has had some arm problems. So he's not really a guy that's going to make a huge difference. But again, he can provide consistency over the last couple months of the season, which the Phillies, as well as the Mets and the Braves, they've all had problems either with their bullpen or their starting pitching at some point during the regular season.
What this division has done is kind of one chapter of a bigger book of a whole bunch of trades. Let's take a look at some other notable trades in and around all of baseball. Can't obviously do everybody, but just some of the teams that are threatening for not only the pennant but also the World Series. Of some of the top teams that were going into the season, maybe not all of them that have played that well as of right now, who do you think really put their stock in the best possible place for the stretch run?
Well, I thought the Yankees getting Gallo and Rizzo. They also got Andrew Haney, who we got really ripped tonight from the Angels. So those were the Yankees have struggled. You didn't really figure they would be fourth place in the American League East at that point. But I thought they really got reserves that they need. Kimbrel is a guy that has such incredible numbers at this point for the White Sox. Who, if you were to look at a weakness, it would be their bullpen. The Giants are the best team in the National League so far. Bryant gives them a great bat to put into that lineup. And the Dodgers getting Scherzer. I mean, the rich get richer, and the Red Sox getting Schwarber, a guy that in June single-handedly carried the Nationals for a little while. So every team did a little bit of something. The A's are a team that has historically been very good. They won 3 World Series in the 70s. They won a World Series in '89. They were in the World Series in '88, '89, and '90. But since 2000, the Braves have, the A's have made the playoffs consistently, and they've only won one round. That was against Minnesota in 2006. So they really struggle in the postseason. You really can't put your finger on why, because they've had good pitching and they have good hitting. So them getting Starling Marte, where they are in the West, where they'll win the wild card again. I don't know if they'll win the division with Houston. But let's see if Oakland can finally get past and get into that next round, something they have not been able to do.
Exactly. As a Cubs fan, I'll tell you what, it really hurt to see Chris Bryant and also Rizzo and
Baez,
also Baez and Kimbrel all go, but all going to organizations that will have a shot here towards the end of the year.
And they all have a very special place in Cubs fans' hearts
100%.
Because they won a World Series. I mean, I'll never forget where I was that night when they won it. I mean, that is the team I will never, ever forget.
And that was an unbelievable World Series just in general. Lots of history on the line between both the Cubs and the Indians. And they were able to get it done. The Cubs will. And like a lot of teams, now kind of in a rebuilding mode as they get things ready for 2022 and beyond. Well, coming up next here on Overtime, speaking of the future, the NBA's future is being painted over the next few days. NBA free agency is way out ahead of schedule, and also we'll talk one NFL quarterback that's going under the knife. Those topics and more coming up next.